Gameplay is pretty similar throughout all games and RPGs in general, like enemy appears, you kill them, you get experience. Enemy appears, you kill them, you level up. Enemy appears, you kill them, you earn power. Boss appears, you kill them, you advance. And you kill God. Yet it has enough differences that all of them are unique in comparison to each other. Muffler 1 is based on random encounters. This is that an enemy could randomly spawn for every step you take. Thing is, random encounters in this game are a bit exaggerated, as there is an average chance of 10% that you encounter an enemy in every step you take. So I hope you have enough patience to level up so you can take them out in 1 or 2 hits. Speaking of leveling up, that is a huge thing here. Grinding in this game is inhuman, as a lot of enemies drain your health in a flash, and they have a big health pool themselves. Also, your stats are very tiny in low levels. Not only that, but useful PSI is locked in the higher levels, mostly with Anna. You need to level up if you want to survive. Also, all your allies but Teddy start at level 1, so you need to level up a bit if you want them to not die in the first turn. Items in this game are a thing, I guess? Recovery items are very good, as life up starts to be expensive after a while of not replenishing PP, which can only be recovered by sleeping or using a PSI stone, aka just sleeping, as there are 6 useful PSI stones in the game. I guess there are more, but the only enemies that have them as a drop are Starmen, Juanes, and last Starmen, some of the final enemies. Recovery items aren't the only ones though, as you can buy weapons, battle items, and defensive items. Weapons are a thing in this game, and spoiler alert, most of them are horrible. The only weapon with decent damage before getting each ultimate weapon is the boomerang, so buying other weapons except that one is a waste of time and money. Battle items range from semi-useful to completely useless. In the first category we have Lloyd items, ball rockets, bombs, flamethrowers, and super bombs, each of them being the equivalent of a different tier of PK fire. Also laser and plasma beams, both being equivalent of PK beam alpha and beta. Every other item is the latter case, because they either inflict ailments that aren't useful anyway, defeat weak enemies, backfire at you, or do literally nothing. The only other good item is the Onyx Hook, that allows you to go back to Magic End for free heals and levels. Defense items can only be bought in Magic End, and they are very useful, these being coins, rings, and pendants. The first two having tiers depending on its defense increase, and pendants having a specific elemental resistance. If you're asking yourself, okay, those items can be used, but how do I even buy them? Well, capitalism, my friend. There are shops all around the world and you can buy things using money from your cash card, because lending a cash card to a child is a good idea. All the money you get is deposited by your dad until you end with a questionable amount of money. Like, seriously, where did you get all that money, Dad? You can earn money by killing enemies, something you'll be doing a lot. So money is never going to be a problem. Using PSI in this game is very important for healing, removing stealth effects, shielding, raising your stats, or killing stuff, you name it. These powers are very important. You generally need to use them a lot to actually do anything in this game. And with only one extremely scarce and consumable replenishing item, hotels are crucial to actually have a rest and fill your HP and PP, and then go back to the fight. Speaking of hotels / inns, those are good points in your travel, because they not only serve as a resting point, but they are almost always accompanied by department stores next to them that act as a saving point because of the payphone inside. Oh yeah, I forgot. You save by talking to your father via telephone, and there aren't way too many in the game, so save whenever you have the chance to. One thing I forgot to mention are stealth effects. They can be cured by certain items, healers, doctors, and with a healing PSI. Some of them even being cured when finishing a battle. The only effect you should be aware of is unconsciousness, which can only be cured by super healing or picking your friends with nurses in hospitals. Story is a bit lackluster, but it is understandable as all games of this era weren't very story heavy, but gameplay heavy, as the story was told majorly through the game's manual. This should be the case here, and I say should because, yeah. Virtual console release means no English manual. Hints are also a bit lackluster as the only hint-giving person is near the 4th melody. The game's progression is quite linear to compensate this, and I'm pretty sure you can get pretty far in the game without even getting hints or checking walkthroughs. EarthBound gets rid of random encounters and replaces them with overworld enemy encounters, meaning that now enemies are actual entities in the world that can be interacted with. This leads to 3, arguably 4 different encounter types. Ambush, when the enemy runs and attacks you from behind. Head-on, when you and the enemy run into each other. Surprise, you attacking the enemy from behind. And potentially, no encounter. You instantly defeat an enemy when encountering them. Thing is, there are a lot of enemies all over the map. respawning when you get far enough from the loading zones, so battles are still extremely common. Leveling up and grinding in here aren't that much of a deal if you compare that with the faster game, as there is more reward and higher stat growth when you actually engage. It also may have a bit of a placebo in it, as bigger numbers overall may fool you into thinking that quantities are bigger when they aren't, but I don't think that's mostly the case here, as numbers are actually bigger, not just apparently. A new thing about health here is the running counter. It will give you more chances of surviving a battle, as damage is fully done once your HP stops rolling. The same applies to dying. You can take moral damage but will only die once your HP reaches 0, not before, meaning that you can cheat death and critical hits if you have enough HP and guts. Grinding is still necessary as in all RPGs. Good and nerfed, by the way, PSI is still locked behind levels, so leveling up is a strategy that must be used. All your members start in level 1 again, so yeah, leveling up is still very much a thing. Items play a bit of a bigger role in this game, mostly because each member has somewhat of an actual inventory instead of 12 slots. They now have 14. It may not seem like a lot, but when you have all party members, 4 instead of 3 by the way, it does make a 20 slot difference. Recovery items are very useful for the same reason they are in the past game. PP starts running out kinda soon. The difference being that in this game you can actually recover PP, but with items and with resting places now that they are more common throughout the world. Weapons are a big part of this game, as every weapon you buy will actually increase your stats, so you should be buying in every town. Not only weapons and recovery items, there's also defensive items that will definitely aid you in your quest to grind that bends to the next part of the story. Styles healing items are less stat specific and now can be used for several effects. There's even 3 items that will revive allies, making the hospital visits less frequent. My only problem with equipment in this game is that some of the good stuff is locked behind luck, as a lot of powerful things are rare drops. When I say rare, I mean it, as in 1/128 chance of getting the item. And a bunch of the enemies that drop them are near resting points, so I hope you stacked up on brainfoot launches and bottle rockets, because you're gonna need them if you want that cool weapon or shiny badge or whatever. You're also gonna need a lot of luck, as 1 in 128 isn't actually guaranteed. I got to experience it firsthand when trying to get Pooh's only weapon, the Sword of Kings. I swear, I killed at least 200 Starman Super on and off camera, and none of them dropped anything. Battle items are huge here, mostly because of Jeff. Not only for his ability to repair things into items, but the items he can use are extremely powerful. Some of them can even one-shot later enemies and bosses. Another big battle item is a teddy bear, a dummy ally that will receive some damage until it breaks, making you able to tank a bit more. Money here is still a very minor issue, as Ness's father works in the same place as Ninten's or something like that, because he also deposits way too much money in your bank account. Seriously, why do we keep giving debit cards to children? They just keep buying weird food, rockets, plushies, and some weed. Cash cards aside, you get money for beating enemies. And if you keep grinding your way to every new zone on the map, financial problems shouldn't be near you. I really mean it, you get money for doing anything and you barely use it. It's near impossible to run out. PSA here is still extremely important, but your PP value is bigger. Attacks are cheaper and more effective than before, so using them as much as you please will still cost you a lot. But it won't be too harsh to just get out of battle, rest, and then come back to fight things with magic until everything runs away from you. As I said before, the healing PSI is heavily buffed compared to its past iteration, so now effect healing items won't be that used. There are also still hospitals to pick up your dead friends with nurses, heal your ailments with doctors and healers for weirder statuses. The story is one of EarthBound's greatest points. As part of the SNES era, developers actually cared more about stories, and consoles were capable enough to fulfill most of their dreams in storytelling. So we got pretty complex lore in this generation. The game holds your hand tightly when it comes to letting you go to wherever your next task is, but giving you just enough freedom to sidetrack for a bit, and can sometimes reward you for it. Hints-wise, there is a hint man in every town that will give you a hint for an increasing amount of money depending on how advanced you are in the game. It's useful, but most of the time ends up being not necessary. Mother 3 brings back the upper world encounters, but with a twist, as there is now a bash mechanic that serves as a running ability in the upper world. You can run into enemies, forcing 2 new encounters apart from ambush, head-on, and surprise. These are bash running over an enemy which level is very close to yours. You only push them away for a couple of seconds, leaving you the way open to run and not engage, and instant defeat. Running over an enemy whose level is smaller than yours, instantly killing them and possibly getting their items, but leaving you with no XP gains. As you can see, bashing into enemies that stop chasing you but don't run away is a very safe way of reaching places like boss battles, which you need to get with full HP and PP. The combat system is new, as you don't have an auto command anymore, but in exchange you get sound battles, a combo system that lets you attack multiple times in one turn for extra damage when following the beat of the enemy's song, or heartbeat as the game calls it. It is very tricky at first, so using sleep and using PSI, items, or the hypnopendulum will let you hear the enemy's heart. It may be useful, but what I do is just do a bit of a double hit at the start and keep my combo going by looking at the notes that appear with each hit, as every bit plays whenever a note is nearing the middle of an enemy's sprite. Trust me, I can't get 16 hit combos consistently no matter the song, and I'm getting every single bit right, but it just doesn't want me to get more than like 3 full combos in one playthrough. Not even playing Crypt of the Necrodancer as a warm-up helps me. Those skills don't translate, I guess. Leveling up and grinding are still crucial parts of the game, because, as I said before, bashing into enemies will save you battles. So you need to get to their level as quick as possible if you actually want to get through zones relatively early. Battles aren't that hard, but leveling up will also increase your chances of not dying to a critical hit because of their own encounter. PSI is even more important this time around, strangely enough not just because of life up or healing, but because of offensive PSI being extremely useful in battle, as a lot of enemies are extremely weak to them, making it a very fast way of killing things without them taking like half of your health in 2 turns. Aside from offensive PSI, defensive and recovery powers are still a great thing, whether it's shielding damage, healing, curing effects, or reviving. They are going to be extremely used to stay in combat for longer. Items are very useful now. Recovery items shine very brightly as they are extremely useful to focus PP less on healing and more on combat. Also, recovery items get progressively stronger as in the last game, so your healing needs decrease even more. So recovery items do shine in early stages of the game, but after a while you'll be only buying secret herbs and Dwarf Life noodles for revival and using healing or hot springs. So yeah. PP recovering items are still rare drops, but you can farm them, even though the restored PP is extremely low and you'll need to take at least 3 of those to restore the points used in your last attack. Fear not about health, PP, ailments, or even death, as resting points in this game are even more common now, not in the form of ents, but hot springs. Yes, hot springs. That will restore your HP, PP, and effects in the blink of an eye. Like, literally the time it takes you to blink while staring at the screen. This certainly takes too much time. Oh my god! Now that I think about it, these are actual hot springs. Magic or not, you wouldn't want your clothes to get wet. So they all go, yep, let's all get naked here in the middle of nowhere and bath together. Nothing weird to see here. Just a 13-year-old kid, a 17-ish teenager girl, a 20-something man, and a dog. None of us blood related, just having a good old time. Alright then. What was I talking about again? Oh yeah, springs. They're so common that it's almost like they knew you were gonna need them pretty often. Equipment is also very huge in this game. Literally every zone brings at least 1 piece of weaponry, yes, at least. Sometimes you buy something just to find something better one screen ahead. My only problem is that good items are still rare drops, like, come on. I want to stop grinding for 5 seconds. Please, let me. Luck is still a bitch when it comes to rare drops. Like, I got this sweet 3% chance drop globe in 3 fights, not only once, but twice? But this 3% drop stick took me like 25 minutes. Battle items are semi-useful, and by that I mean only bombs and the shield snatcher for using. Now that capitalism forgot to bring phones and ATMs, but not TVs, mate. How do you save and get your needs solved? Well, frogs. Frogs can save your game and they're also a part of a bank chain or something, I guess. But hey, at least we aren't dealing with telephone dads doing shady business and chilling with cash cards buying drugs any longer. Thing with money in this game is that it sucks. Whenever you try to buy anything for your party, you will either not have enough or completely run out. As enemies don't drop a lot of money now, so the only way to get enough cash is to be actively grinding for it. So grinding sucks here again. The only time you'll be getting enough money is after grinding an absurd amount. Story in this game is an absolute masterpiece. With several stories for every character, every chapter being different and a lot of background lore, we get a very immersive experience complete with some plot twists here and there. I genuinely enjoyed this game's story way too much.